Okay, so we're at 5 past. I'll just check whether we got any questions on. No, okay. Do we have the contributor, the Rocket Chat member known as Bonen, on the call? I don't actually know who you are in real life. That's going to slightly scupper our main agenda item of having Bonen show us a demo of the application.
My microphone on the mute.
Ah.
Koen is my real name.
Ah, Koen. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start with. Oh, sorry, I had the agenda up that I've got on screen share. Here we go. So our agenda for today was going to be to have Bonen or Koen to talk about experiences of building a digital property trading network. We're also planning to have a bit of an issue discussion around 655. And then just room for any other business. We've actually got Dave Kelsey able to join us for the first bit of the call, so we're going to slightly shuffle this agenda to just sneak in an extra item first, because we noticed there have been a few questions about Hyperledger Fabric version 1 support on Rocket Chat over the past few days. So Dave is our team member who is working most closely with that at the moment. So we just wanted to get Dave to come along and give a quick update on Fabric Composer and Hyperledger Fabric version 1, and just give a quick opportunity for any questions and answers on that. So we'll go with that first. I'll hand over to Dave, and then we'll switch over to Koen. I'll just check that I've got you allowed to do screen sharing as well. Yeah. Change room settings. Are you able to take over the screen share, do you know, Dave?
Are you putting on mute?
Oh yeah, did you say me take over the screen share?
Yeah, just to check that you're able to. I don't know whether you have anything to present, but just to make sure that's actually working and other people can share.
No, I've got nothing to present, but I'll have a go at taking over if you want.
Yeah, just to check it'll work before we go starting off the agenda. Thank you. It looks like it should be enabled.
Right, yeah.
Perfect. That looks like it's working. I've got a very blue screen with a little Rocket Chat icon going on there, but I'm definitely seeing something. So
there we go. How about that?
Brilliant. Cool. Thanks, Dave. Okay. Well, the screen share isn't very relevant, as you say, but do you have some updates for us on V1?
Yeah, let me just stop sharing for a second. Okay, right. Well, thanks, Ed. So yeah, V1 support. So as we know, Hyperledger released an alpha end of March, and so we've been working with that alpha, and happy to say that Fabric Composer works really well with the alpha. I think the only capability that currently doesn't work is undeployed, but basically we should be able to get a V1 alpha runtime actually up and running, and as long as you've got the right connection profile for Fabric Composer, you can just use Fabric Composer as it is and get things working quite seamlessly. Obviously, there's a couple of things. First of all, how do you set up a simple Hyperledger Fabric V1 Alpha runtime so you can actually work with it? And secondly, how do you then create a connection profile? So we've just recently put up a new sample application based on Hyperledger V1. It's in GitHub. It's called, if I can find it, the name of it, it'll be under our Fabric Composer GitHub, and you just have a look for sample applications-HLS v1. That should give some insight on how to set up a simple Hyperledger Fabric v1 alpha runtime and details on a simple connection profile. So what we're really hoping to do is get people starting to play with this stuff as soon as possible so that we can get some good feedback and suggestions. If anybody else is interested, if they don't want to download the sample applications HLS v1, what I can do is I've got a shell script which I can put up on Rocket Chat, a link to which people can actually just execute, and that will very nicely just download Hyperledger Fabric version 1 alpha, Docker containers, get them started for you, create your channel, create a connection profile that will work with that that runtime, and then you just use Fabric Composer as per normal. I would suggest using the latest version of Fabric Composer, which currently as it stands is 0.5.10. So yeah, things are going really well with version 1.
Okay.
That's about all I've got to say on that. So really it's a case of anybody got any questions?
Okay, thanks, Dave. I switched on screen share as you were talking there to just show where that project lives. So if you've been making any contributions to Fabric Composer, you've probably been looking at github.com/fabriccomposer/Fabric Composer, and one level back from that is where you'll find the sample applications HLF v1 that Dave was talking about there. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is to have Koen show us a demo of what he's been working on.
I'll try to share my screen.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and fingers crossed it'll work for you.
First I have to download some software I see.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. You do, yeah.
See if it works.
One thing I was going to show actually, whilst you get that working, I'll just nick back the screen share again. I was going to just quickly show, if we look at our issues with v1 in the title at the moment, you'll see we've got a couple of bits around this getting started for v1 that haven't been closed off yet. So whilst Dave's showing that where you can go and get hold of the code on GitHub, we do have an intention to update the main getting started and the documentation around getting started so that they will just tell people how to get started with version 1. So our approach going forward, once we close off these issues, will be that any new users coming to Fabric Composer who start off with our getting started instructions will be learning how to work with Fabric version 1.
It says my installation is ready.
Okay. So you should see, oh, I guess you'll have clicked on the button to get it to tell you that before. So if you click that start sharing button again, oh, it's kicked you out.
Yeah. Trying again. Maybe I could start with a general introduction. So my name is Koen. I have a background in artificial intelligence, and I started Blockhouse, a company that makes real estate investments really accessible to everyone, in December last year. And we're based in Amsterdam. We're now with a team of 8 people, mostly developers. And we aim to have a pilot this summer. And the pilot will allow people in Amsterdam to start first to buy blocks of ownership, of real estate ownership, starting from €10, and to trade them on a blockchain, completely peer-to-peer. We as Blockhouse aim to be a trading platform, but we really emphasize that we allow an open source ecosystem where anyone can build applications on top of blocks, and peer-to-peer, like peer-to-peer collateralized loans, all those kind of things. Is that clear? Just please interrupt me if I'm not clear. I got into the meeting. I'm going to try to share my screen now again.
Excellent. We can see it.
Right. Yeah. So maybe to start, I've been working at IBM as well. I think most of you work at IBM, right?
Yeah, that's right. Most of us, most of us. We've got a full-time development team on Fabric Composer at IBM. So, most of the people on the call today are IBMers.
Yeah, myself, I was in the Extreme Blue program in 2012, so I met quite a lot of IBM people.
Were you really? I used to, complete coincidence, but I used to manage the Extreme Blue program in the UK, as it happens.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah. So that was my link to IBM, and then we joined together on a hackathon in Holland, a blockchain hackathon this February, and they appointed me towards Fabric Composer. And I think for us it was an instant match. I think the whole approach with the business ecosystem and it's an exact match to what we try to achieve. And in my screen you can see the participants we defined. So I think I built it in approximately a week. I was kind of new to Node.js. I was new to Fabric Composer, but still it's quite easy to get up to speed. So it took a week to build all the business logic and permissions, etc. So the participants we work on, it's a block holder, so someone who owns a small piece of real estate. That's part of the bigger fund. We have notaries that sign certain transactions. We have fund managers that are the legal owner of a fund. And below, you can see how they interact with each other. Let me go to my email. So what I wrote down is some of the lessons learned. I already said it was extremely easy to get up to speed. I think that's very positive. And what we did in the last 2 to 3 weeks was to have a lot of sessions with notaries, with banks, with mostly non-technical people. And every time I used the Fabric Composer and the idea of a business network as a starting point, and actually had non-technical people experiment with the playground. And that worked really well. They really liked the approach. So they afterwards actually did some programming themselves, the non-technical people. So I think that's a big compliment.
Can I ask, when you say non-technical, how, do they have any technical skills at all? What sort of job roles do they have that they can do that, the playground?
Most of them were innovation managers. So
okay.
They do have some understanding about what programming is, but none of them programmed before. We helped them do some business modeling in the business model language to understand the permissioning file, to understand business rules. So that really works well. One of the big challenges for me was when designing this whole ecosystem was that I don't really get a clear understanding of how transactions work versus CRUD operations, so directly changing assets. And still, maybe I misunderstand the point. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense that you can do a direct CRUD operation that's not part of the transaction, because then it's not registered somewhere that something changed. And what's difficult is then, because when I started designing, all the changes towards assets go via a transaction. So in the transaction logic, I have all the kind of business rules to make a change to an asset. And then later I found out that you can also directly create assets and directly make updates to assets. So all the business rules I implemented in the transaction can be kind of omitted by direct CRUD operations. And to me, that doesn't really make sense, that kind of design. Maybe I misunderstood, so maybe that's something that should then be more clear on the website. But maybe a question to you, Ed, is that something you see before, more often?
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view. So effectively, the CRUD operations are kind of there. They sort of implicitly exist as transactions, and we don't do anything to kind of show. I guess we could just kind of throwing ideas out here, not necessarily saying this would be a good solution, but you could almost see something that would say that when we create an asset, we sort of have transactions that are there to kind of tell you, the very fact that you've created this asset and given it these properties means that you now will be able to do CRUD operations on that. And then in our samples, where I think when Simon did his kind of intro to Fabric Composer session on this call, he will have shown the auction, the car auction sample network. So the kinds of transactions we define in there are where you're starting to have to do something more complex that does a few things at once. So take the closed bidding transaction in there, for example, goes and looks at the array of bids, works out which is the highest one. It debits and credits some money between different accounts. It changes the state of an asset and of a listing, and it does a few things bundled into one. But so I guess we've taken that approach of saying, we're going to give you CRUD operations for free, but it's interesting to hear that when somebody is, we don't show you that is there, and so it's interesting to hear that you kind of went and. I know maybe it's a bit of an easy thing to trip over, that you go and implement those things yourself and only realise a little bit further down the line once you're testing it that, hey, these things actually were already there.
Yeah, like for me it would be easier, like it would be nice if you can also disallow CRUD operations.
Yeah.
Do allow transactions on an object. Because now all my business logic is in the transaction declaration. And I think there will be a lot of use cases where there's a lot of business logic that defines if you can do a CRUD operation. And if you do have to implement that all in the permissioning file, which is more limited in expression, that's not going to work. So for me, my whole design for the block ecosystem, it didn't work when I found out that you can actually do CRUD operations.
I see, yeah.
But then I completely designed it with unspent transaction output, more in a block, like a Bitcoin fashion. And then it worked, but that took quite a long time. It's a lot more complex than if I would just be able to disallow CRUD operations.
Yeah, you would. You're exactly right about how you would approach that now, which is via the access control list. And yeah, you would be effectively saying, if anyone attempts to do, but you'd kind of need a rule to say to explicitly disallow each of those operations on. You could write you could write a minimal set of rules that would say if any participant tries to do a read operation on any asset, then don't allow it, and then a similar one for create, update, and delete. But as you say, that is that's them requiring you to write 4 rules to achieve that, and that they've ended up being quite broad rules that you've got there, which later on might end up doing something that you don't want. So if you start going down to the level of detail of a per asset version of those rules, you very quickly get to a point where you've got a lot in your access control list to achieve that use case that you're describing.
Yeah, and in my impression, also the access control list is quite a lot slower in execution. But maybe that's just when I look into logs in the Docker, it seems like there's a lot of output and waiting when it comes to access control matching.
That's interesting.
So maybe that's just an impression. Another point for me is the stability. I think because we aim to go for production this summer, and I still have quite often that my whole chain code Docker, it just stops, and I cannot communicate anymore with the smart contract. So for that, my suggestion would be like there's not really an available timeline for me to understand what the maturity is of the code and when things will be changed and maybe become more stable. So now it's difficult to make an estimation if we can actually use the product for production and when, and this is really unclear. I can understand the reason, but maybe a timeline would help a bit.
Yeah. Can I just check what sort of setup are you running with? You mentioned there that you've got the Docker container running a version 0.6 Hyperledger Fabric, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're running that container. Where are you running that?
I'm sorry?
Are you running that locally on your development machine, or do you have that container running somewhere else?
Yeah, locally. And
Locally.
I had a version as well with the Bluemix starter environment.
Okay, yeah. And you've tried both of those. Cool. Sorry, I'm not like building towards any point where I go, aha, that's why it is. I'm just trying to make sure we're looking at the right bits when I'm mentioning this to people.
But I can make some overview of problems I ran into, like technical problems, and share my version that I'm using. I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So I'm particularly I really like it when people talk about problems that they're having, stuff that's blocking and getting in the way. Just because as a designer working on this, those are the kinds of things that we're looking for to try and work out. Where should we be focusing our time? Yeah, this is all really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing that would have helped me get up to speed more quickly would be kind of a tutorial focused on a good testing and debugging environment. I kind of lately found out, because I was also new to Node.js, that I should have my browser like inspect with the console and see what goes wrong. That's something but that's maybe my personal background that I was not that used to Node.js.
I see.
It took me a long time to get up to speed, because every time there was a bug, I had no idea what it was, and I was just randomly looking into the code and trying things again. And that's the same maybe functionality for the playground that would help me a lot, is if you could also add a file to automatically create participants and assets. Because now every time I uploaded to new business network, I had to manually in the playground create the participants again and the assets again.
I see.
You can also have a declaration that automatically creates participants.
So each time you did it, you were trying to get the same set of participants and assets so you could begin testing. So it's almost sort of a test pre-set up file that would tell Composer which assets and participants to create to get you ready to do your testing. Is that the kind of thing you're describing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
And for me, it was the first time to, I really like it actually, to work with software that's an incubation status, so that it's more of a mystery where to find everything.
Yeah.
One of the first.
So I should come back to
really
your.
Help me with community support.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's great that like within an hour, everyone always responds from Rocket Chat. So that was really helpful. So I'm looking forward to bring it to the next level. That were my comments.
Awesome, thank you very much. One thing I'm hearing a lot of good bits of feedback for us as a development and design team. So when I say good feedback, I don't necessarily mean like positive feedback. It's good to hear some things that aren't so good as well. And then another thing that I'm hearing about you talked about the kind of timeline for stability. Is making me think that maybe we could do something on a future one of these calls where we get maybe someone from offering product management to come along and maybe give us a kind of an overview, initial ideas of a sort of a roadmap or what kind of timing people could expect on that. So we'll try and line something up. I'll go away and look to line something up for maybe the next community call where we can get someone along to give a view on that.
I mean, some of the things that we should bear in mind is that that there may be more people in the community willing to pick up some of the items that we'll have to work on that might change the timeline. So, the point of the project being in the community is it's not just being driven and done by IBM. So, we've made our set of of epics available on the GitHub repository for people to look at. They're just a straw man, really. We would really like some feedback on them, and if people are keen to pick up any of those items, then that would be great from our point of view. But again, I think having an offering manager come and talk on the call would be a good idea, Ed.
Yeah. A question about so Fabric Composer. Obviously, it has the playground UI where you can go to composer-playground.mybluemix.net, and you can also get to a point where you're running Composer. Either you can be running the playground in a Docker file locally, or you could be using, say, the Atom or the VS Code plugins. Which of those did you use, Koen? Or did you start with one? Did you move to another? Kind of what sort of time did you spend in each of those? Just wondering which bits of the toolkit you made use of.
Yeah, so I did the first experiment with the online playground. Then I started with connecting both to a local Docker environment and the Bluemix starter environment. And that's the only ones I experimented with. And I think later I read somewhere in the Stack Overflow and Rocket Chat that I could also actually do the testing locally within the Node.js within a Node.js engine. I think I should switch to that. Now I spend a lot of time in debugging. Every time I make a mistake in the code, it takes me 2 or 3 minutes to get up to speed again with creating all the assets, creating all the participants, because I have this flow where a block can only be created after a print is created, after the print has been signed by the notary, etc., etc. So all those steps I have to take them every time again before I can test like the last part in the chain, in the whole transaction chain.
Yeah.
So that took me a lot of time. So that's something that was next on my list for coming week, to find out how I should do that more effectively.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the call have some questions they would like to ask? I feel like I'm interrogating you a bit much here.
What's like maybe a question to you and the community? Are there already companies looking for a production-ready use case in the near future using Fabric Composer?
Yeah, so yes, there are, and we ran an early program workshop back in February this year, and we've got several of our customers and other partners who are playing with Composer and looking to move forward with that. They're not all on the community, obviously not on the call today, which is unfortunate, but I think it's not, the timing of this call is not great, and certainly in the UK it's vacation time, so that's why we're a bit thin on the ground. But yeah, I mean, I think the work that you've done is being paralleled in other companies, so you're not the only one going this, having got to this stage, I guess is what I'm saying. But your feedback's really useful to us to share, so thank you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, I think for me the very most important one is the thing about CRUD operations and the provisioning file.
Yeah, we can take that. Yeah. We can take that one back with us. So thank you. But we've made comment. We've got notes of all the comments that you've made. So very much appreciate you sharing with us what you've been doing.
Yeah, thanks. And I also said on Rocket Chat, like now I don't feel comfortable actually contributing because I'm still a beginner when it comes to Node.js, but in the future, also when we hire more experienced developers, we would also like to give something back to the community.
Great.
By contributing.
That would be fantastic.
All right, that's it then.
Yeah.
Thanks
Okay.
for your time and listening.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, as Rachel was saying, we've got a stack of notes here. We'll go and we're just about to have a couple of days of public holiday in the UK, but when we're back in next week,
Yep.
we will get together as a team and fill those who couldn't be on this community call. We'll fill them in on that feedback that you've given us. So thank you very, very much for that.
Hey, you're welcome.
So I had one other agenda item to go through, which Rachel did allude to a little there, which was to just show you a little bit about some of the planning that we've been doing in GitHub. So we wanted to sort of show people this to explain. Oh yeah, I've got to share my screen, haven't I? Otherwise, I'm not showing anyone anything. There we go. Hopefully you can see the GitHub that you all know and love now. So we've actually this is I need to look at it in Chrome. So this is a minor, super exciting insight into our development, organisation and admin process. So I've gone over to Chrome because I want to have the Zen Hub plugin available. So Zen Hub just gives me this, for people who aren't familiar with this, it gives me this boards and reports view as well. So a new thing that has started appearing in our GitHub repo is stuff in this projects tab here. And projects is sort of a GitHub construct that lets you plan ahead a little bit and say kind of roughly what we're going to be doing next as a kind of an iteration is this piece, and then after that we'll do something like this, and after that we'll do something like this. And if you go and look at the projects tab in our GitHub, you can see that we've got these things labeled by playback. Whenever I start demonstrating something like this, I realise how much terminology we have that is maybe not shared by everyone else in the software engineering world. In IBM, we have playbacks, and that's basically what we call a meeting where we show what we've done. It's a term from design thinking, which is the methodology that we use for our kind of design and dev process here. And a playback is just saying this is going to be a big sort of milestone demo where we show what we've been working on and we show some progress on the project. So we've got playbacks 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 roughly planned out here. And really this is just a go at setting an initial kind of roadmap of what we might do. I'm being very, very vague in my language here because what we're trying to say through this part of the call is that this is an initial straw man proposal of what we could do. We've got some target dates against these things here, but at this stage we're really looking to invite comment on this, and we're not trying to say this is us all planned up until the 27th of July. I want to be really clear that we are not saying this is exactly what we're going to do. What we're looking to do is to invite influence and comment and addition or debate around this stuff. So we have, if you go and click on any one of these, you'll then see the targeted stories that we've got for that playback. So this gives you a kind of an idea of the sort of themes that we're planning to work towards for that date. So really just the agenda item for today was to show you this, and to say that Rocket Chat is a great place to discuss this, GitHub is a great place to discuss this. If you want to take a look at these issues that we've got as our straw man proposal, and you want to suggest other things, or you want to comment on any of those issues, we'd love to hear feedback on this plan. What we're doing as we move to development on a playback, because playback 4, if I just flip back, is targeted for the 27th of April. So obviously we're already doing some work on some of the stories that are in playback 4. We are using milestones for the things that we're actually working on. So if I Zen Hub over to boards, I can then filter down by milestone, and playback 4 is our current milestone due in 14 days. And that will allow you to see the stuff that we actually are firmly committed to working on. This is stuff that our team is kind of triaging and scrumming each day. You'll see members of the development team assigned to this. You'll also see that people can, this is stuff that you can come along and contribute to. If you want to be commenting on the stuff that we're actively working on, this is a good way of finding it. If you want to pick up issues and contribute to them yourself, this is a good way of finding it. And then if you want to look at stuff that we're going to be looking at a little bit further down the line and influence those plans, then projects is a good place to go and look at that. Anything anyone would like to add to that, or any comments or questions about that? Okay, lovely. The last thing is to just offer the chance for any other business. Is there anything anybody else would like to raise on today's community call? It's very special, low attendance, everyone's on Easter holiday edition of the community call. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you especially to Koen for that demo today. As I say, we're a little bit thin on the ground ourselves today, but we've got comprehensive notes from all that. I'll rocket chat you a photo of my notes actually. I have like post-its littered all over the desk from as you've been talking, and we'll go through them with the team next week, and we'll be in touch on rocket chat to ask any follow-up questions or discuss any of those issues further.
Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good Friday and a good weekend, and catch you next time, or catch you on Rocket Chat or GitHub. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well done. And you have recorded that, so you
I
put
have.
that on the community. So the fact
Yep.
that we've